Hey! Today I'm bringing you a combination video with your favorite home decor DIY ideas using pill bottles. From simple hacks to beautiful transformations. This video brings the best ideas together in one place. So don't miss these creative ways to turn something ordinary into something amazing. Let's get started.
For this project, I'll be using 4 of these Lash pill bottles. I was so excited when my friends and family got me these. I removed the caps off of them, and we're going to use the bottles for this. We'll put the caps to the side because we'll be using it for a different project. We took each one of these and we are going to clip off that little mechanism that makes them secure so kids don't open them up. I'm just going to clip off that section on each one of these bottles. If you do this, please be careful. They go flying everywhere. Exhibit A. See that? I used some eye protection. I did that with all 4. Now I'm going to position them there onto that piece so they won't roll off. And I'm going to paint them with 2 coats of Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. Here I'm going to take some of my Waverly antique wax. I was not sure exactly how much I wanted to antique wax these pieces, so I started very lightly, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to go for a light wood look or a dark wood look. So I started with small amounts of that antique wax and I built it over time. As I went along, I decided that there you go, guys. I have a mishap in every DIY. You see that? I don't know why does the paintbrush fall off. Anyway, after that happened, we're going to continue to add I'm sorry. I'm going to continue to add that paint, just building it up, building it up. At the end, I decided I wanted this to be quite dark. So you will see me here go a lot heavier with that antique wax. And if you notice as well, I am keeping my strokes in the same direction because I am trying to achieve the look of wood. I kept adding more until I ended up with this shade. And I repeated the same process with all 4. But here I want to show you a technique that I did to have this look as if it has little nuts on the wood. You know how you have those little nut pieces those circular nut-like pieces in the wood. I added that by just swirling my paintbrush, as you see there. I did it on the first one after the fact, so that one I'm going for a darker color with that, and the other one I went lighter. Once they were all done and dry, I'm taking one of these home signs that I got from Dollar Tree. We are going to dismantle this guy up and use the pieces for it. So I'm going to use each one of those letters for each one of those containers. Full disclosure, if you do this, make sure that you do not paint the section in which you're gluing this. These pop off for me, and I was expecting that. I was not sure that I was going to glue these on. In the beginning, I was hoping to do some fabric on it and then glue it. I went with this approach. If you do this, do not paint the section in which you plan on gluing these letters, because they will pop up very easily thanks to that paint and that antique wax. So do as I say, not as I did. I learned the hard way. I fixed them after the fact. I'm not going to put you through the whole situation. So I'm showing you here, I'm telling you what I did after the fact. So here I'm just adding a little bit of pool noodles on the bottom of each one of those as I'm adding the glue onto each letter. That is so the bottle stays level and that piece sets properly there with that glue. Once I had all 4 of those letters on there, I'm going to take some jute cord, and you know me and the fuzzies, I can't stand them, so I'm burning it off. And then I'm going to drape them over the top, as you see there. This was an afterthought. I was not sure that I was going to add anything else. As I said, my first plan was to add some burlap fabric to this and then the letters. But you know, as you're crafting, your things evolve tremendously. So that's what happened here. So I'm taking the jute cord and I'm wrapping it over, as you see there. And one side of it, I'm going to add a bead, one of the beads that came from the same side. And on the other side, I'm going to take a little bit of hot glue, add it to the back of one of those hearts that you see there, comes from a pack at Dollar Tree. I'm going to add that heart to one side. And then I'm going to add hot glue on the top section of that again and sandwich the two hearts together so they will be nice and symmetrical and it will look like one piece. One bit of advice with this, I will say, unravel the section in which you are adding that piece on there so you will have a flatter surface and they will, both of the hearts will connect closer together and form one heart a lot easier if you have that jute cord flat on the back. And I did this with every single one of them. One of the beads on one side and a heart on the other. I added a little bit of hot glue on the edges of that medallion looking piece there where the letter is, just so that jute cord will stay in place and that bead will jangle or dangle, will jangle, will dangle on the same or in the right height of this. So I'm just doing that so everything stays in place. And I repeated this process with all 4 of these pieces. Here I'm showing you exactly what I mean by sandwiching together, and then press it and hold it there until that glue sets, and it just gives you a more finished look and it gives more security to this as well. Next, I took some of these greenery that I got from Dollar Tree. I believe they are eucalyptus, and I'm going to remove all the tagging and we're going to cut it into individual pieces and place them inside of the vase. But before we do that, we're going to add the leftover pieces of pool noodle that we had for the previous DIYs into these bottles. So this will form as our floral foam or our filler, so this greenery does not fall to the bottom and doesn't go everywhere. And that is it for this project. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this one? For this project, I'm using the leftover bottle caps from a previous project, and I'm going to spray paint them using this Krylon hammered metal spray paint. I gave it a total of 3 coats. Once everything dried, I'm taking 4 of these votive candles from the Dollar Tree and position them right into the bottle caps. And now these have turned into some votive candle holders. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this project?
So the previous DIY seemed a little bit lonely. A candlestick by itself is just like a lonely man without a wife and child. So I decided I needed to do more, but I had no more pill bottles. But my friend Miriam came to the rescue and got me these 2 pill bottles, and they were the perfect size for the next DIY. First thing that I did was remove all of the stickers and the plastic off of this one. And we're going to remove that cap to remove the rest of the plastic off of that. We gave it a nice cleaning. And we are going to use 4 of these wood rounds that we got from Dollar Tree. I removed the hangers and we're going to cover all of the holes using some of this lightweight spackle from Dollar Tree. I added the spackles on both the top section and the bottom section of each one of these wood rounds. Once all of the spackle dried, we are going to adhere our pill bottles to our wood rounds. And to do that, I'm using a combination of Tide Bond, Quick and Thick, and hot glue. I'm not using only hot glue because the wood doesn't always like the hot glue. And I truly want a tight bond between these pieces. Then I position my pill bottle at the center of the wood round. Here I'm trying to be as precise as I could. Eyeballing it as best as I can, I should say. And I'm doing the same thing to the other pill bottle. Then I'm coming in and adding some of that Tide Bond Quick and Thick to the top section of each one of the pill bottles. And then I'm going to come in and add hot glue to the middle where I did not have any of that tight bond, and position the other wood round on top of each pill bottle. Thank you. Then I'm going to use some of these puffy stickers from Dollar Tree, and I'm adding them to the sides of the wood round at about a finger width. And I'm going to add a combination of hot glue and our quick and thick glue. Here I'm just using hot glue, but I did tight bond for the other ones, and this is what it's looking like so far. Then I'm going to take my zip sander and just lightly sand the areas where that spackling is to make sure that everything is nice and smooth. And what I did to the top, I did to the bottom on both candle holders. Then I took some of these beads from Dollar Tree and I threaded them onto some of this stretchy cord that I also found at Dollar Tree. I used about 16 beads for this. And guys, I kept having accidents. I was like, why? I threaded them again. I am going onto them. I'm about to tie them on, and why? I was not having a good time. I always having mishaps, guys, all the time. But I gained control of the beads. Then I went over and I tied it again onto that, making sure that it's nicely tight and that my beads are close to each other. Once I like the positioning, I'm going to give it 2 or 3 more knots onto that to make sure that that stretchy cord does not slip off. And then I cut off the excess. And I added some beads to the other pill bottle as well. And I'm doing it to where the indentation where the cap meets the bottle. And to glue both of these, I will be using a combination of tight bond, quick and thick, and hot glue. I'll be adding the tight bond in some sections or intervals and the hot glue in between. So the hot glue will be setting everything up so I can continue working on this. And the tight bond will dry in about 15 minutes and will give it more of a secure hold. My friend, if you enjoyed this video so far, please don't forget to hit that like button. And while you're there, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so YouTube notifies you each time that I upload a new video. All these things are free and they mean the world to me. Thank you so much. After I was done with these, I decided to add more to the bottom. So I added some to the bottom and then painted both pieces with my Seriously Gray from Waverly. I love this color. Look how cute that is. But I'm not done. I need the distress. So I'm going to come in with some of my Rust-Oleum Linen White Chalk paint and a chip brush. And I'm going to dry brush some of that white on there. And just adding the paint onto my paintbrush, then removing most of the paint and then rubbing it against all my raised edges and actually all the surfaces, because I do want this to have this distressed look and I want it to match the previous candlestick that I did before as well. I love how this distressing brings out all the details of each project, and I love that now my previous candle holder will not be alone. Let me know what you think about this one.
For this project, we'll be using 3 of these medicine bottles. I'm going to use some heat to remove the tags from them. I'm just going to heat it up just enough to soften up that glue and rip off the rest of the tag. I did have some glue residue left over, so to remove those, I took some of this glue away from Dollar Tree. I first just tried to spray it onto the bottle, but I find that the easiest way to do it is to just soak up a paper towel with that solution and just let it sit all around the bottle for a couple of minutes, and then it's a lot easier to just remove all of that glue. Then after just a few minutes, I was able to just scrub the rest away. And then I wipe off the solution with a paper towel and came back with a wipe from, I think it's called Routine Clean. Yep, from Dollar Tree. And I just cleaned off all of that oily residue off of the piece. And then I did the same thing with the other 2. Then I'm going to remove the covers off of these. We will not be using them for this project, but put them to the side because we can always use them for another. Then I painted all 3 bottles with white Rust-Oleum Linen White Chalk paint. Next, I took this piece of wood that I got from Dollar Tree, removing that tag. I'm going to go ahead and sand off all of the edges. Listen, they were very rough, so I sanded off all of 4 sides. Then we're going to remove all of that sand off of my surface because I want it to be nice and clean. This little lady, it is one of my most used items on my craft room. If you're interested in getting one, I will link it in my Amazon store. Then we're going to stain this using some Waverly Antique Wax. I'm going to apply using a paintbrush, and I'm going pretty heavy with it. I'm making sure to get all of the edges of my board as well. I am avoiding the middle section because I have other plans for that, but I'm just adding some on the sides on each side here because those sides will be exposed. Then I'm going to take a wipe and remove all of the excess antique wax off of the board because I wanted it to be more rustic than that heavy brown. Now we are taking a pool noodle and I'm going to slice it down the middle using my pool noodle knife from Dollar Tree. I'm using 1.5 for this piece, but it was a little bit too long, so I'm going to trim off one of the edges of the pool noodle because I want that wood on the edges to be a bit more exposed. So using the same knife, you're going to cut off a piece just so we have this nice and center with some of that wood showing on the sides. And we are going to glue this down using some hot glue onto the surface of that wood. I'm going to press it down firmly to make sure that that is properly adhered. Then I'm going to take the same pill bottles that I got ready earlier, and I'm going to put one right in the center of the pool noodle and roll it back and forth as you see there. So I have that indentation of the bottom of the bottle. And then using my pool noodle knife, I'm going to carve out that silhouette or that image off of it to create a hole. So my pill bottle will be sitting into it. So I'm just going to carve off the top section of the noodle as you see there. Once I remove that section off of there, I'm going to come back in with my X-Acto knife to remove the section that stays there on the corner. My bottle was not fitting properly this way, so I did need to carve out that bottom section of the noodle so my pill bottle will fit nice and flush onto that hole. And I repeated this process with the 2 other bottles, putting them on each side of these 2, making sure that they're the equal distance from each other. Then I took these candles that I got from my local thrift shop. I got 4 of them for $1, but one of them was not working and they were filthy. So I took that same paper towel that I had with goop off and I was able to clean them pretty nicely. Then we are going to add all 3 of these to our pill bottles. But as you see there, they could not fit properly, so you're going to come in with some more pool noodles. Look how perfect it goes into the hole of the pool noodle. So I am going to cut off 3 of these pieces of pool noodle at about 2 to 3 inches in width. Next, I'm going to take the same pieces and I'm going to slice them on all 4 sides. I'm going to turn them into a square, but being very careful not to cut that hole. I want that hole to be intact. And then I thought here will be enough for me to just do 3 of those. I got the other 2 the same way. And I said, you know what, let's put it in here. It should be perfect. Look at the hole was all squished up once I put it in there. And let's just say it wasn't the best. I wasn't thinking that this was exactly this was not what I was thinking of, is what I'm trying to say. So I decided to take off some of the sides. The knife here was pretty much trying to cut open that hole, which I did not want. So I'm just carving with my fingernails pieces on the corners, as you see there, rounding off those edges so it will fit nice and perfect into that bottle. And I repeated it with all 3. Now we're going to position our candle holders in, and look at that, guys. Great hack. It's going to just sit there nice and simple, and whenever you're ready to turn them off and on, all you have to do is pull them out and turn them off and on. And they're sitting nice and erect. Now comes the fun part, embellishing this. I'm going to take a variety of different greenery and flowers from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to position them all over our pool noodle. We are using the pool noodle as our floral foam. This is a nice, inexpensive way for us to have floral foam, and it's pretty much versatile. You can use it for so many things. You can use it, as you see there, to stand up your candles, or you can use it as floral foam. You can use it as a filler. Well, you'll see later on in the video many other uses I have for this. So here you see how I position my greenery, no rhyme or reason, just seeing how everything is nice and balanced and something that made my heart and my eyes happy. That is all I was going for. So these projects are to be inspiring you to create your own. So in this sense, you do what is best for you and what works for you and what makes you happy, because that's what crafting is for, at least for me. Crafting is relaxation and just a moment of peace, of just being immersed in my crafting. And I don't know, it's just so relaxing. So go ahead, and if you do this, go ahead and do whatever feels good. As you see there, I did the same thing on one side and the other using this other greenery that I got from Dollar Tree. I think this was called, I think it was rosemary. I might be wrong. I just feel like lately every greenery is just called greenery at Dollar Tree. So let's just call it greenery. Anyway, then I took some of these white flowers and I cut them pretty short, because if you notice here, that pool noodle surface is pretty short, so you don't need your stems to be too long. So I'm cutting them at that level, bringing up the leaves that come at the bottom, and then sticking them in different positions in which I have exposed floral foam. And what I do to one side, I do to the other, and I do that with both sides as well. Just standing them up on there, just trying to make it look nice and wispy. That's what they look what I was going for. And I wanted it to be full and for it to just scream summer and dinner parties and all those kinds of fun things. I continued to add different types of greenery. I ended up coming in after I put the white ones on. I came back in using some eucalyptus. I think it's eucalyptus. Yes, eucalyptus, I believe, from Walmart here and there as well. I added some yellow flowers that I had left over from another project that also came from Dollar Tree. I also added some floral moss in different areas where you can still see that pool noodle, but I needed a little bit more. So I added these other flowers that I also have leftovers from Dollar Tree here and there to give another pop-up color and to bring out that yellow on the candles. And now, just like that, this project is done. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this one?
All right, guys, I want to take a quick moment on the video to just say thank you so, so much to each and every one of you for all the love and all the support you have shown to me from the beginning of this journey 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Can you believe that? 3 years, on YouTube. I cannot believe that sometimes, but it's been a roller coaster, but it's been a fun, fun one. And that's because of each one of you. And I'm so, so grateful to you. So I just wanted to let you know how grateful I am for all the love and all the support you have been showing me through all these years. And I am such a crybaby. But I just want to let you know I truly, truly appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. And thank you so, so much for everything that you do, all your comments, your likes, your kind words. Everything is so, so appreciated. And I want you to know that I see each one of you. So thank you so much. May God continue to bless you today, tomorrow, and always.
For this project, I'll be using this pill bottle and two of those wooden rounds that I got from Walmart. To remove the sticker off of the pill bottle, I'm just going to add some heat to it and then go ahead and lift it up. This just makes the adhesive loosen up and it makes it a lot easier to remove the tag. And to get the rest off, I'm going to use some goof off that I got from Dollar Tree. And then cleaned off the bottle using some multi-purpose cleaner. Then I'm going to take two of these rounds and we are going to adhere one at the bottom and one at the top of the pill bottle. And to adhere it, I'm going to use some Tide Bond Quick and Tick. I made sure to be quite generous, especially in the bottom section, because it did have a little bit of a dip there, the bottom of the pill bottle, and I want to make sure that it has a nice adhesion. And I made sure that it was centered, and I removed any excess glue that seeped off the edges. Repeating the same process with the top as well. I find that this glue is quite forgiving. You have a lot of time to be able to make sure that everything is nicely centered. And then I just left it sit overnight. Then I took the entire structure and painted it with 3 coats of Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. However, I wanted to bring in some color, so I took some of this moss from Waverly, and I'm going to cover the entire top section, just this one wood round here. My paint was pretty thick, so you're going to see me here spray water onto the wood round here and there. That's just so I'm able to apply the paint much easier. I noticed that these paints tend to thicken up the older they get, just like me. I let it sit aside to dry, and now we are going to embellish this a little further. I'm going to take these rub-on transfers that I got from Dollar Tree. I have used them before, so I had them already cut off, and we're going to add them all in that column section. But first, I'm going to seal the paint in with some Mod Podge. Once the Mod Podge was nice and dry, now we are going to add the rub-on transfers over this. Just a word of caution, just don't be too rough, brazen? No, I'm burnishing down the rub-on transfer, because in some areas in which I was very vigorous with it, the Mod Podge wanted to lift up with the rub-on transfer. So just be as gentle as possible as you can. So I'm adding 3 of those long pieces on the top section all around. And then I'm going to add smaller ones coming down in these open sections. And this is what it looked like. And we are done. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this piece? I love it.
For this project, we'll be using 2 of these wood ranks from Dollar Tree, these little stickers from Dollar Tree, and 2 pill bottles. The first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and remove all the stickers. I did that off camera. Then I'm going to use some hot glue and add it to the bottom section of one of the pill bottles, and use a lot of hot glue at the middle and glue them butt to butt. Next, I took the 2 wood rounds from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to give them a sand, and I'm just going to remove any surfaces that are rough or uneven. Then I'm going to take a combination of Tide Bond Quick and Thick and hot glue to attach the pill bottles to both of the wood rounds. I'm adding the Quick and Thick on the wood rounds in the middle, and I'm using the hot glue on the bottle, but I'm doing it in the perimeter, so that way both glues will not interfere with each other. I'm trying my best to keep this nicely centered. I just pressed it in the middle of the wood round, pressed it in place until the hot glue dried, and then I'm going to add hot glue to the top section of this top pill bottle and attach the other wood round on top of it, also trying to make it straight and centered. And this is what it's looking like so far. Next, we're going to use some stickers. I was thinking of using these, but I ended up using these puffy stickers from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to just go ahead and position them in the middle section of each of the pill bottles. I am gluing them using some hot glue. I did try some sections also where I used some Tide Bond instead, but the hot glue on the plastic was more than enough. I am adding the stickers about, I will say about a finger width in between each one, and that gave me the perfect spacing so everything will look symmetrical. And I went all the way around the mid section of both of the pill bottles. Once all my glue was nice and dry, I'm going to come in with some of these beads that I had found at Dollar Tree. Then I took some of these sticky cord also from Dollar Tree, and I threaded 20 of those beads on there. Then I'm going to add those beads to the midsection where both of the pill bottles unite. And to glue it on, I'm using a combination of E6000 and hot glue. I'm adding E6000 in some portions, and hot glue, I'm leaving spaces in between so I can add some hot glue And then I'm going to go ahead and position my beads in place and make sure to tie that string very tightly so the beads will be held in place until that hot glue and the E6000 set. Then I am adding about 2 to 3 other knots onto that sticky onto that stretchy cord to make sure it doesn't slip. And then I'm going to do the same thing to top and the bottom, and this is what it's looking like. Then I covered it with 2 coats of Seriously Gray from Waverly, and this is what it's looking like so far. But I'm not done yet. I'm going to take some of my white Rust-Oleum Linen white chalk paint and a small chip brush. I'm going to just dry brush that white over the entire candlestick, trying to add some more onto the beads and all the raised surfaces that I added to this. And I did this until I went all the way up the entire candlestick. And this is it for this one. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this one?
For this project, we'll be using one of these ibuprofen bottles. I removed the sticker, I removed the cover, and I'm going to take some jute cord. I'm going to burn off the fuzzies of my jute cord, add a little bit of hot glue at the bottom of the pill bottle, wind the end of the jute cord just a bit, and then start wrapping it. As I'm going along, I'm adding a little bit of hot glue next to the jute cord, which is a little, not so much that it will seep through on the edges. And I continue to do this process until the entire bottom of the pill bottle was covered, and then I started going up the sides as well. I continued to add hot glue as I was winding the jute cord until I went over that lip. And then here that the bottle is pretty much the same width, I'm just wrapping the jute cord close to each other as you see there, making sure that there's no gaps in between. Here I'm not adding any glue, I'm just using the pressure from the jute cord to keep everything in place. And I continue to do this process until I got pretty much to the section of the pill bottle that started to be tapered. Once I got to the tapered edge, I added hot glue every time I added jute cord. Here it is easy for the jute cord to slip away, so this is why I'm doing this, and I'm making sure to add the minimal amount of hot glue so I don't have that seep through the jute cord and I don't have that hot glue stains all around my jute cord. I want this to be nice and neat. And I continue to do the same process until it was covered all the way up, including the threads where the cap would have been. Once I got to the top section here, I am wrapping it in the inside of the bottle a little bit as well. I'm gluing it onto the jute cord that I added before and onto the wall of that medicine bottle as well, just so I'm able to cover up all of the white section on the opening. And once I had it wind up exactly as I wanted it, I'm just going to go ahead and cut off the excess jute cord on an angle and go ahead and glue down that piece as well. Then I took the entire piece and I'm just going to burn off the fuzzies off of the entire thing. And I love how this gives it a nice charted look. I do like this agent that the fire does to the jute cord as well. I'm just going to go ahead and rub off any excess little pieces that are just laying there charredness. And then I'm going to take some jute cord. I'm going to take 3 pieces of jute cord. I took one and folded it in half as you see there. Cut that section, and then I cut another piece that's the same length as this one, creating 3 strands. Then I took those 3 strands and I taped them down to my table. Now I'm going to begin braiding this. I'm just going to braid it as I would with hair, just being very careful to keep my braid nice and flat against that table. And I just kept bringing it in, bringing the outer one in each side at a time. Kept doing that until I got all the way to the bottom. Then I took a small piece of jute cord and I'm going to use it to tie here at the bottom. but I'm going to glue it on. I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue onto that edge of the braid, then add the jute cord to that little end and wrap it around and glue it again on the same side here at the bottom. And I did this for this bottom section, and I also did it for the top, and trimmed off the excess off the bottom. And this is what it was looking like. And just making sure that it's not stiff, because I will be putting this around my pill bottle. I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue on the neck of the pill bottle, glue the middle section onto it, again making sure that I don't have any hot glue seeping through to the edges. I just wrapped it all the way around and then cut off the excess, making sure that I had enough to completely butt up against the other side. And then I glued that down so it will be a nice seamless transition. And then I burned out the fuzzes one more time. To further embellish this piece, I took one of these wood hearts that I got from Dollar Tree. It comes in a pack of many of them. And I'm going to glue it right here at the center of my little jar. Look how adorable that looks. I added some of these florals from Dollar Tree to the jar. Look how cute this turned out. Let me know what you think about this one. For this project, I'm using the leftover bottle caps from a previous project, and I'm going to spray paint them using this Krylon hammered metal spray paint. I gave it a total of 3 coats. Once everything dried, I'm taking 4 of these votive candles from the Dollar Tree and position them right into the bottle caps. And now these have turned into some votive candle holders. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this project?
For this DIY, I'm going to be using 4 pill bottles. Originally, I thought I was going to use 6 pill bottles for the word spring, but then I changed my mind. So I took some of this fabric that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to wrap my pill bottle using that. I make sure to remove the cover before I wrap it up. Once I know exactly how much I know to cover this, I'm going to just hold it as you see there and take some twine to tie it right there. Don't tie it too tight, because we will be adding something to the middle.
At this point, I just tighten it with one nut just so I can cut off the excess fabric. I held the fabric in place to ensure that I had a level cut. Look how nice and flat that turned out. Now we are going to open up the center of the fabric and add a piece of this pick from Dollar Tree. I push the pieces up and I cut a piece of the stem short enough that it will fit into the middle of the pill bottle but not stick up too high. Then I took this other pick from Dollar Tree and added a piece onto the other bundle, and then wrap some jute cord at the base of this arrangement. I'm going to just add a little bit of hot glue there to begin it, and then I'm going to wrap a piece of jute cord over that piece of hot glue, or that little drop of hot glue, and hold it in place, and then wrap it all the way down. This is just to keep everything in place, and also to have a thicker portion to hold this in place once I add it back into the pill bottle. Once I wrapped it all the way up, I just added a little bit of hot glue to the end and cut off the excess jute cord. And then reposition this right back into the pill bottle. If you enjoyed this video so far, don't forget, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you would like, also go ahead and share it with someone who will enjoy it too. Thank you so much. All right, so once my florals are back in there, I'm going to reposition that piece of jute cord. And this time we are going to tighten it up as much as we can and do a double knot. Now we are going to create a jute cord bow with 2 loops. I wrapped the jute cord around my fingers as you see them positioned there 2 times, so until I had 2 loops on each side. Then I'm going to wrap the same jute cord around in the middle onto the jute. I'm going to tuck it into that same piece and then tighten it up, making sure that everything stays centered. And then just arrange my tails so they will be both in the bottom. And I just trim off the excess ribbon, or the excess jute, I should say, at the bottom as well. And then took my bow and glued it right there on top of the knot. And then I did this 3 more times. Once I had 4 of these pieces, I'm going to take these wooden letters that I got from Temu, and I'm going to stain them with my Waverly Antique Wax. And glue each letter at the middle of each one of these arrangements using some hot glue. And with this DIY is complete. Let me know in the comments what do you think about this one. For the next inspiration, we'll be using this pill bottle and some jute cord. I'm just going to add jute cord to the entire bottle. Just adding a little bit right here to start off. And you'll notice here I will be adding hot glue on every little inch here because this first row is a foundation for the rest of the jute cord wrapping process. If you like, also you can always paint this bottle ahead of time if you like, but I wanted to keep the plastic raw so the jute cord will attach a lot easier and it will stay there much stronger. And I continue to do this until I covered the entire pill bottle, including the top. If you're enjoying this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and let me know so far which is your favorite. And don't forget to share with your friends as well, because sharing is caring and it helps my channel grow. Thank you so much. And subscribe. It is free and it means the world to me. Next, I took some cardboard. I'm just going to cut off a piece of it to use throughout this DIY. First, we are going to make some ears. So I'm just going to see exactly how much I will need as far as the width to use for this. And using this piece that I cut off, I'm going to create 2 little ears. So I'm going to form with my scissors a teardrop shape, but leaving the bottom of the teardrop a little bit wider. Once I form that first teardrop, I'm going to use it as a template to trace off the second one. And then I cut it out. I use the ears to form the feet. So I'm going to place this on top of another piece of cardboard and place that steel bottle on top of it and then trace the figure based on that and then cut out that shape as well. Next, I took some jute cord and wrapped all 3 pieces with it. In any areas in which the shape is getting thinner as you go up, you're going to have the jute cord try to slip. So at this point, you will need to add hot glue on these areas. Friend, let me know in the comment section where you're watching from. I love to know how far my videos are reaching. Thank you so much. And here are all 3 pieces covered. Now we're going to put this together. I'm going to add a generous amount of hot glue onto the bottom there. At this point, my hot glue decided to go kaput. Nothing was coming out from the tip, but I had a lot coming out from the bottom of the tip. So I just added that amount of hot glue there, pressed it down. Now I'm going to add some hot glue to the bottom section of the ears and hold them in place until that glue sets. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Here you can see that I'm just dipping that edge onto the bottom section of my hot glue gun there because it was not coming out anymore. It was very, very little the amount, so I had to invest in a new one. So once this got nice and formed, so I'm going to go ahead and use this felt tip marker in the color black that I got from Dollar Tree to form 2 ovals that are going to be my eyes. I'm going to also fill them in with that color. Then I'm going to form the nose. So I'm just going to create like a small little oval long ways for the nose, and then I'm going to loop 2 little C-like shapes from the bottom so it would look like the nose and the mouth. Then I took a white pen and I tried to do the white of the eyes using that. It did not work. So I'm going to come in with my squeeze bottle that has some white Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint in it to bring in a nice bright pop of white there that will look like the white of the eyes. Next, we are taking this fabric that we got from Dollar Tree, and we're going to take a double piece. Just a small piece. I'm just doubling the fabric there at the corner, cutting off that little rectangle there, and then using that rectangle, I am going to cut off 2 shapes for the ears. It's going to be the same thing, just cutting off like a teardrop shape, leaving that top section of the teardrop a lot wider than usual. And I made sure to create these teardrops a little bit smaller than the actual ears, so it will look like it's the inside of the ear. And using some hot glue, I'm going to attach these pieces to each one of the ears. At this point, I was really still trying with this hot glue gun to see if it will actually work. But yeah, it wasn't working. I ended up with that whole stick pretty much just balled up at the bottom of my hot glue gun. But here we got some of it, and we were able to attach that. And we're going to repeat the same process, adding fabric to the feet. Then I took some of this beaded garland from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just wrap it around the base of the ears until I have enough beads at a nicely spaced amount, and then I'm going to cut off the excess, and I'm going to leave the tail a little bit longer so I'm able to tuck it behind and keep all this in place. Then I took this flower that I got from a pick at Dollar Tree. I'm going to just cut it right underneath the base right there and glue it with a little bit of hot glue right there at the corner. And I thought this was a perfect touch, but I'm not done yet. We need some whiskers, so I thought this would be perfect for some whiskers. I took some more of that beaded garland. I'm going to cut 2 pieces that are about the length that I did of the first one. Then I'm going to cut off an extra piece because I'm going to use these 2 little beads to create the end of my whiskers. So I'm going to remove those 2 beads from that piece, or from one of the pieces, and I'm going to glue that bead to one of the ends of the other 2 pieces that I cut off, and this will create like a 3-part beaded section there. And then I'm going to trim off that other edge, add a little bit of hot glue, and glue them on each side of the nose. And I thought this was a perfect touch and cute little whiskers for this little bunny. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this one? I think it's amazing and beautiful. And of course, I had to trim off the fuzzies. And that is it. Let me know what you think about this one in the comment section below. For my next inspiration, is going to be my pride and joy, my beautiful little chicken. We're going to start it with the pill bottle, of course, and some of this fabric that I got from Dollar Tree. I just took a piece and cut it into a square and a rectangle. I'm going to add some hot glue to the cover and place my square right on top of it. And then I'm going to add hot glue on the edges of the cover and keep tapping it down until the fabric is adhered on all sides. If you're still with me this far into the video, I want to say thank you so much for sticking around with me. I truly appreciate your time. Leave me your favorite emoji in the comment section so I know who you are and I'm able to give you an appropriate thank you for your time. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate you. Well, I trimmed off that excess from the bottom, and then I'm going to take that rectangle and wrap it around the rest of the pill bottle. Once I knew exactly how much I needed, I'm going to take my scissors and trim off the excess fabric. Now it's time to adhere the fabric. I took some hot glue and I added it to the top section of the pill bottle and pressed it down until it was in place, and I repeated that until I went around the entire pill bottle. Just gluing the top section at this time. Once I got to the end, I'm going to add hot glue on each side where the fabric is hitting the rest, And then I'm going to seal the edges as well here and make sure that it's as seamless as possible. To make sure that the bottom was also even, I'm just going to make slits on that remaining fabric that I had. I'm going to create the slits as you see there, and then using some hot glue, I'm going to tack down each one of those flaps down. I did this as first, but then the piece was kind of wobbly with this. I thought that the indentation in the bottom of the pill bottle will be covered by that fabric, but it was actually more bulky than I expected, so I ended up trimming off that portion at the bottom. Then I took another piece of cardboard and I'm going to create some feet for my chicken. So I just did that side right there. It's looking like it's two big toes of a piggy, but that's not what it is. I'm going to cut another triangle in each one of those little humps. And slowly but surely, I will be forming this into some chicken feet. Just enjoy the process. Once I was happy with the shape, I cleaned off the edges. Now we are going to make a little beak. I'm just going to cut the edge of the cardboard, and that is it for the beak. Just going to make sure that it's symmetrical and put it to the side. Then I took another piece of cardboard and we are going to create the crest. Is it a crest? I don't know. In Venezuela or in Spanish, we call it cresta. What do you call it in English with the top section, that meaty section that is in the top of a chicken? Let me know in the comment section. Well, to form that piece at the top of the chicken's head, I'm going to take a piece of cardboard and cut it in that shape as you see there. And then I'm going to cut little triangles, trying to go in the same direction. So it would look like that zigzag thing that it has at the top. And then I'm going to just trim off the bottom section so it will all be even. It was a little bit too long here, so I just actually removed that top section there, and I like how it's looking now. Then we are going to create some wings as well, and we're going to use cardboard also to do that. I cut a piece of cardboard like in the half of a heart shape, and then we are going to do some zigzag on here as well. So I'm just going to cut little triangles on this one as well, trying to keep them kind of like in a lower angle so it would look like feathers. So here I'm just trying to keep them all in the same direction and kind of the same spacing, but not quite. I want it to look like it's different, layers of feathers pretty much. Once I was happy with those edges, I'm going to go ahead and trim off any excess that I have there at the top and use that wing as a template for the second one. Using this felt pack that I got from Dollar Tree, I'm going to use the two orange colors here. I'm going to use a darker orange to cover up the feet of the chicken. I'm just going to place hot glue on one side, press it down on the felt, making sure to have about a half an inch of extra fabric on all sides. And just going to go ahead and trim it that way along the entire shape, going in the places that have the little triangle cut out. So as I'm gluing this in, the shape of that feet will not be lost on the process. So I just added hot glue on the other side of the feet and being very careful not to burn myself and also to not lose that shape. I am bending the felt down onto each one of the ridges, making sure to go in on those divots as well, pulling it in so you will continue to see the separation of the two little peaks on the shape. And I continue to do this until all of the edges were towards the back section of the feet. Then I'm going to take another piece of felt and I'm going to place it on this back section. So I'm just going to add some hot glue to the bottom of the feet where the cardboard is showing and press it down onto another piece of felt. and then just use small scissors as you see there to cut off the shape. As you're trimming this, just be sure that you're not cutting the felt that's already attached to the cardboard. And then here the scissors make it easy to cut into those little divots that we have here, so you do not miss the shape also on this piece. And once everything was done, we are going to add some hot glue to the other pieces and cover them up just the same way as I did with the other ones. I used the dark orange for the beak and the crest and the lighter orange for the wings. Now it's time to put it together. I am going to place some hot glue in that back section of the feet. And here, guys, my hot glue was just kaput completely at this point. So I ended up trying to use a dowel rod to take the rest of the glue out, but it didn't quite work out that way. So I'm just going to be dipping my dowel rod onto my hot glue as I'm doing this project until I found and bought another hot glue gun. So as you saw there, I added hot glue to the bottom of the feet. I placed my pill bottle over that. Now I'm taking the dowel rod with the hot glue and adding glue to that flat section of each one of the wings, and then positioning on both sides of my torso of my chicken. Once those go together, we are going to add the crest, or tell me in the comments what do you call this in English. I'm going to add it to the top as well. And then I'm going to take some googly eyes that I found at Dollar Tree and add them to the front. Just adding it with a little bit of hot glue as well. Once both of those eyes were positioned in place, I am going to take my beak, add a little bit of hot glue on the back of the beak, and position it right underneath of my eyes. I am obsessed with this chicken. Look how cute it turned out. All right. Well, I wanted this to have a place to live in. So I took one of these circles that I got at Walmart, and I'm going to use these florals as well. Here I'm just seeing where exactly I want to put them. You'll see me here trimming off the bottom edge and cutting this in half, and we're going to be positioning out here. But I decided to stain this circle with some really antique wax. Then I reposition my chicken in place, and we're going to arrange some florals around it. We're going to use these florals that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm going to trim like with an inch down from the flower, and we're going to add it on the sides of the other two pieces I glued on each side, as you see here. I'm just going to keep layering things onto this. I wanted this to look like the chicken was just hanging out in the garden in a little patch of grass. So here I'm cutting the pieces from that purple flower so it would look like grass all in the front. But before I did that, I wanted this to have a more natural look. So I took some floral moss. So actually I got reindeer moss from Dollar Tree. Once I've got done doing these two pieces, I decided that I wanted to add some reindeer moss to the front section. I didn't want to cover the front too much because I wanted those toes of the chicken to really show. So I'm adding things that have very low profile to this. So it would just look like he is just hanging out in the grass instead of just hanging out on a piece of board. So I added the reindeer moss all alongside there. Then I cut this floral piece in about 5 or 6 different pieces. And I'm going to arrange it, adding it to the front section here. So it will look like he is just standing in a patch of grass. And I added that white flower on the side as well. And this, look how cute it's looking, but I'm not done yet. I thought let's add a piece of greenery in the back of the wing as well. Just adding a little bit of double hot glue right there, holding it in place as the greenery is erect. And that is it for this one. Look how cute this turned out. Let me know in the comment section. What do you think about this one? I feel like I should put greenery on the other side. What do you think?
For this project, we'll be using one of these wood rounds from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use my hot knife, and I will be cutting this into 2 equal pieces. As I'm using this attachment on my heat tool here, it's a knife, but it's a pretty short knife. So I'm being very careful to just go as deep as the knife goes and not further, because I do not want to poke holes that are wider onto the edges of these cuts. So I'm just doing pretty much the rough around it, and then I will use my spatula to cut the middle using just some pressure along all the sides until I go all the way through. Then I took my zip sander and sanding block, and I'm using both of them interchangeably to sand off the edges and making sure that everything is flat and even. I'm going to need one piece to stand up pretty straight without being any kind of wobbly. And I need the other edge to be nicely finished as well, because I have some plans for that as well. Once both pieces are nicely sanded, I'm going to mix some baking soda and some Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. I used about 3 tablespoons of baking soda. I would say it's a lot more than that with these blocks. But this is baking soda that I used in my fridge and it was done. So instead of throwing it in the garbage, I use it for crafting. So why not, right? Recycle. So I am there just removing any pieces that are kind of clumped together, just using a skewer. And then I'm going to add about, I would say 2/3 of the amount of liquid paint in this case onto the baking soda, so I have a nice, like a cement-like consistency. Here I'm just using a syringe that I got from Dollar Tree. I find that it's easier to pour this way. That way I don't get paint all over my can as I'm pouring it into my containers. And also I'm able to use little amounts as I need them. And if I don't need it, I can always just pour it right back into my container. And here I just kept mixing until my mixture was lump-free. And then we are going to cover both pieces with 2 coats of this. While they're dry, I'm going to take 3 pill bottles. I'm going to remove the covers, but I'm going to remove them a little bit different. I'm going to use my heat knife. I will be cutting as close to that little ledge there. And I'm leaving the pill bottle cover on because I will be using that later on. Not for this video, but I'm sure it will be for a future one. So I'm just cutting it off. I wanted the edges to look as if it was melted candle. So I did purposely let those warp a little bit. And then here, these pill bottles have a little ledge that you will, like a safety piece in order for it to, like a child safety thing. So you'll need to like press that down before opening the bottle. I am melting that in and position it to the rest of it. And this is what they're looking like so far when I'm done. And now we're going to sand off lightly each one of the pill bottles. Once I'm done with all 3, I'm going to take them outside and paint them with 2 layers of Rust-Oleum black flat paint. Now I'm taking these 2 pieces of wood that I got from a local thrift shop. I'm just going to sand them down to remove any imperfections and then paint them with 1 coat of Folka Rich Black paint. Now we are going to put this together. I am taking one of the halves and I'm going to position each little leg onto each one of these wood pieces. I will be using a combination of my Tide Bond and hot glue to attach them. Here I totally forgot to leave that wood end done, but hey, too bad, right? At least it's only 1 coat of paint I put on here. And I'm going to just glue each side of that foam reed form onto each side. Here I totally forgot to add the hot glue first and I didn't, but here you go. It's fine, I did it afterwards. And now we are going to just remove a little bit of that Tide Bond that seeped through the sides. I'm using my X-Acto knife. I did not want that glue to be all over my black paint. And then I'm using a wipey to remove the rest of the excess. Now comes in the other half. I am going to position it on top of this one as you see here. And to do that, I'll be using a lot of hot glue. I'm going to add a small amount first because I was not sure if it was going to drip. I did not want a mess, so I'm doing this first. But then I'm going to come around and add more all around that junction. And I'm going to hold it in place as you see there until all that hot glue dries. Once it's dry, I'm going to take some of the mixture that I used earlier. And we are going to paint all those hot glue stains and craziness going on. So the consistency of this is very forgiving. So you can never tell that was hot glue. Now we are going to take the pill bottles that we took outside and spray painted, and I'm going to glue them to the top section of each one of those 2 little horns that are coming up here. And I'm adding hot glue, letting it sit a little bit, and then putting it on because I do not want the hot glue to burn through my foam, although this foam is a little bit stronger than I thought. Here I'm taking the third one and I'm just pressing it on that junction, just being very careful not to break the whole thing apart. So I'm holding the piece in place and then pressing down to create a little bed for this pill bottle to sit on. And then I'm using a combination of that Tide Bond, Quick and Thick, and some hot glue. Adding just a bit so nothing seeps through. Once that glue sets, we're going to come in with these emergency candles from Dollar Tree. Then I took a pool noodle piece and I'm going to cut it into 3 about 2-inch pieces. And here I am using a pool noodle knife that I got from Dollar Tree. Then I took each one of those rounds and I'm going to cut off the rounded edges, turning it into a square. And then I'm cutting off the little edges to turn it back into a circle. Some of the areas were a little bit too small to cut, so I'm just pinching off the excess to remove those edges. And we position that around our candle. And then we're going to put that into the pill bottle. And we're going to shimmy that pool noodle down into that pill bottle until you can no longer see it. And this is going to hold your candle in place, and you are able to take these in and out without a problem. So you're able to turn it off and on. And I repeated this process with the other 2 as well. I know, right? It's looking cute, but we are not done yet. I'm going to take this greenery that I got from Dollar Tree. It comes in pieces of 3, and I am cutting them pretty much close to where the beginning of the greenery starts. I'm just making sure that all of the plastics are facing the same way. Here they were a little bit too long, so I'm just trimming off the excess. I'm going to add hot glue to the side that is the ugliest, and I'm going to glue that to the reed form that's directly underneath of that middle pill bottle. I'm going to hold it in place until that hot glue sets, and then I'm going to add hot glue to the other side, and I'm going to press it on top of the other one at about the same angle, and I'm going to hold those in place until those dry. And then I'm going to repeat the same process with the other side as well. For a beautiful finishing touch, I'm going to use one of these dahlia flowers that I got from Dollar Tree. I am going to remove it from the stem, cut off that plastic that they usually have there, and I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue in the inside there between the flower and the plastic. Then I took one of the leaves that come in the same pick, and I'm going to add hot glue in the inside of those leaves and then press that flower right onto that leaf. So that's why I have some greenery in the back. Then added some hot glue to the back of that greenery and glued it right in that space where the 2 pieces of greenery joins. And I held it there in place until it was set, and I repeated the same process with the other side. And that's it. Let me know what you think about this one. For this project, we'll be using one of these reed forms from the Dollar Tree, one of these fat pill bottles, and that wood black from the Dollar Tree. Then we're going to take the reed form and we are going to paint it with a mixture of Rust-Oleum Linen White Chalk paint and some baking soda. I'm going to give it a total of 2 coats. And this is what it's looking like. Then we are going to take a pill bottle and we are going to remove the cover and sand, lightly sand, I should say, all of the edges of it. This is just so our paint, we're going to be spray painting this, and spray paint sometimes tend to chip. So when I spray paint, I try to lightly sand my surfaces to avoid any chipping. Once that was nicely sanded, I'm going to take it outside and cover it with 2 coats of this Rust-Oleum paint. Then we're going to take the wooden plaque that we got from Dollar Tree and paint it with 1 coat of this full card rich black paint. I'm leaving that section uncovered because I want to be able to add glue to this, and I don't want the paint to interfere. Here I'm taking my X-Acto knife and I'm going to remove a portion at the bottom of my reed form. But I'm choosing to take the area in which you see where the two pieces of the circle unite. There's like a seam. So I'm using that as the bottom section of my round. So I am cutting off a section that is kind of flat here at the bottom, so I'm able to stand it up. So I'm just doing a rough cut here, and then I'm going to come in with my sanding block to make it nice and even and straight. I find that the sanding block here is a little bit better because you have a little more of a surface area and you're able to keep everything even instead of using the smaller surface of that zip sander. So here I had a piece that was just too big to sand down. So I'm just coming in with my X-Acto knife, being very careful not to cut myself here, being very slow. Here, the video is pretty much sped up, so don't worry, I am being very, very safe. I remove all the sand, and then I'm going to add a combination of Tide Bond Quick and Thick and hot glue to the portion that I left unpainted on the plaque, and position my round on there using the area that I cut the bottom of. Then I'm taking my pill bottle and I'm pressing it down to the middle portion of the round and creating an indentation so it will sit right there. For this one, I am using a combination of the Tide Bond and some hot glue. I'm using very little hot glue and mostly the Tide Bond. The hot glue is just to keep it in place. The Tide Bond is more of a long-term hold. And I just held it in place until the hot glue set. And this is how we're looking so far. All right, but I'm not done yet. I am going to take some hot glue and just add it to the bottom section here where I see any spaces, just to give this a little bit more support. And if I have any seepage, I'm just using my X-Acto knife to remove that because I do not want that hot glue to seep down to the rest of the white section. Then I'm taking some of this greenery and some florals from Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut some pieces and add them to my pill bottle. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to hit that like button. It truly helps my channel. Think about the like button as being oxygen, and the more oxygen you give a video, the more views it will get and the healthier life it will have. So go ahead and smash that like button. Leave me in the comments section where you're watching from. I love to know how far my videos are reaching. And please share this with someone who will enjoy just as much as you do. And while you're there, hey, why not? Subscribe. It is free and it means the world to me. Thank you so much. And we are done. Let me know in the comments section what do you think about this project.
For the first project, I'll be using 3 pill bottles and I'm painting in white using my Rust-Oleum Linen White chalk paint. And then I cover it with 1 coat of this Riviera Tan from Anita's. Then I took some of this fabric that I got from Dollar Tree and I'm going to cut a section that is big enough to cover my entire bottle. I'm going to just leave the front exposed. And making sure that the front is nice and neat and trying to make sure that the fabric looks like it's flowing down. And then I took a clear little elastic from Dollar Tree. They usually find them in the hair product aisle. And I just put it over the cap and I'm placing it right there underneath the bottom section of the cap. Then I'm just going to turn it over and trim off the excess fabric from the bottom. This part is very important that we go very flush with the bottom of the bottle so you're not able to see the bottom of it, and also that your piece is able to sit on your shelf or on your hair tray very nice and stable. To embellish it, I'm going to use this sheet of rhinestones that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to cut a row off and I'm going to glue it to the section where we added that elastic. It's important not to use any hot glue on here because that will melt off the elastic and it will pop right off, just as I did there. I wasn't thinking. So we're going to do it again. And this is how we're creating Mary. And I'm going to do the same process with another one, but I'm going to use a different kind of rhinestones for it. And that is going to be our Joseph. Now let's create baby Jesus. I'm going to use the smaller of the 3 little bottles to create this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is figure out exactly what side I want the face to be.
And now I'm laying it down onto the same fabric that I used for both Mary and Joseph. First, I put the pill bottle at the center of the piece of fabric that I intend to use, and I folded a piece of the fabric over the pill bottle, but I went a little bit further. Now I'm taking the corner from the outer piece and I'm folding it inward. I am pretty much just creating a swaddle effect. I did the same thing with the other side. I did not want to cut the fabric here because I want to make sure that I had enough fabric to cover the entire pill bottle. Then I'm going to go ahead and add hot glue to the one side to make sure that it stays in place. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. I am adding hot glue as I go along to make sure that all the pieces stay in place. So I just added a little bit there to cover the bottle cap and then folded the other piece over the other side and also added some hot glue to there to keep it in place. Made sure that the bottom was nicely leveled, and I'm going to leave some fabric in the bottom so I'm able to cover it up, and I'm just cutting off the excess. Once I cut off this section, I'm able to fold it as neat as possible and add some hot glue so the swaddle will be nice and neat at the bottom as well, and also making sure that I don't have any of the glue exposed. And here it is all bundled up, but we are not done yet. I'm going to take a strip of this little gold little pearls looking things that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to place them right at the edges of where he was swaddled. If you're enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and while you're there, go ahead and subscribe. It is free and it means the world to me. And give me your opinions in the comments. Once I get to the edge, I cut off the excess, and then we are going to add some more to the other side as well. And our baby Jesus is done. Let me know what you think about this one. For this one, we will be using 3 pill bottles. I removed the caps and we are going to sand them off very nicely because we will be painting them. I painted the middle one with brown oxide from Apple Barrel and the 2 outer ones with Riviera Tan from Anita's. Well, I tried to, but it was too translucent, so I ended up taking linen white chalk paint from Rust-Oleum, painted all 3, and then painted it with the colors I indicated earlier. Then I took some of this gold glitter cardstock that I got from Dollar Tree and I cut it as strip. Then I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around each one of the caps. I'm going to just use some hot glue to keep it in place. Once I wrapped it all around, I just put hot glue on all the top and bottom of the seam. Now I'm taking my scissors and I'm going to cut some triangles going downward on here, and I'm going to start my next triangle on the edge of the previous one, and this is just creating that effect of a crown on here. Now I'm going to cover the bottle cap. So I just took a piece of the same cardstock and put it against the round section of the crown and cut around it. Then I cut about a little hair bit around the entire side so I'm able to put it inside. Then I added some hot glue to the bottle cap and placed it down. And I repeated that 3 times. Then I took some of this fabric that I got from Dollar Tree and will be using all 3 pieces that you see there. For the first one, I'm going to use it for that middle pill bottle. I cut a piece of the fabric and then I'm going to fold it down as you see there, and I added a little bit of hot glue in that portion that will be the front of it, and I'm just creating kind of like of a color on this. But I'm only adding the hot glue to the center. And I'm adding a little bit of hot glue at the top to make sure that it stays in place. I'm going to not put it all the way up, but I'm going to leave some space because I will be draping it downwards. I pleated the front to make it look as a nice color going down, and I repeated the same process on the other side. Once I was satisfied with what it was looking like, I just added a little bit of hot glue on each side to secure it in place. Alright friends, so here you see how I'm pleating it down one more time with the other side as well. I just want to make sure that that color is nicely prominent, and when I'm happy with what it's looking like, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue in that section as well and place it down.
And I'm also going to trim off the excess fabric. I'm using the bottom of the bottle as a guide of how much to cut off. And this is what it's looking like so far. Now it's time to embellish. I'm going to use this from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to cut a strip off and glue it going all the way down the edge of the tunic. I am also going to add it to the bottom section of the tunic. If you're enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and leave me a comment to let me know what you think of each one of these projects. And make sure that you share, because sharing is caring and it helps my channel grow. Thank you so much. Now we're going to add some embellishment also to the crown. I'm just adding it to the base of the crown, and I'm using the edge as my guide to have it nice and straight. I am starting from the back and working my way right to the back again, so that seam is at the back as well. If you recreate this piece, just add a little bit of hot glue at the end to make sure that it stays in place. And that is it for this piece. We are going to recreate the same thing with the last pill bottle using the yellow fabric. In the beginning, I had added these red dots. I thought they would look nice with the contrast with the yellow. I added it to the crown, and I added it coming all the way down to the bottom of the tunic, almost like buttons. I added it to the bottom as well. And I liked it how it turned out, but then I changed my mind and I removed them. And I'm going to add the rhinestones that I used for the previous pieces instead. And I think I like it better. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer. For the third wise king, you probably know that that's what I'm making by now. I'm adding the green fabric, and I'm adding the same rhinestones that I used for the previous one. And I'm adding it to the collar and also adding it to the crown as well. And that is it for this one. You let me know which one of these is your favorite so far. I am loving this piece. I love how the colors contrast with the rhinestones. If you love to see more of these projects, I will be leaving another video also linked in the description box below for more pill bottle ideas. Using a pill bottle and a ping pong ball from Dollar Tree. We will be removing the cap. I'm going to take some snips and I'm going to completely remove the pieces of plastic that are just sticking out there. That's like a security piece in order for the bottles to not be opened by children. I'm just going to remove that with my snips, and I'm going to remove all the lip all the way around as well. When I can no longer clip any more plastic, I'm going to take my box cutter here and being very careful not to cut myself. I'm just going to slowly cut away that piece of lip. I'm lifting and I'm clipping as I'm going until I went all the way around. I also removed the grooves where you screw the top. And then sanded off all that section. Once it was nice and smooth, now we are going to paint it using linen white chalk paint from Rust-Oleum, and painted the cap using this brilliant gold paint from Kryolan. Now it's time to put it together. I'm going to take this red ribbon that I have and I'm going to put it inside of the bottle and put the cap back on backwards. Then I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue at the back of the ribbon, and I'm going to just drape it all the way down the pill bottle in a spiral until I go all the way down to the bottom. Then I glued the ping pong ball right at the top of the cap. Then I took this pearl metallic paint from Dollar Tree and I'm going to paint the ping pong ball using that color. And while the paint was still wet, I'm going to take some pearl white fine glitter that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to use it right on top of the paint. And I left this beautiful finish that looked just like snow. Then I added some more embellishment. I'm going to use the same rhinestones that I've been using for these projects, and I'm just going to take a row that has 2 pieces on it, and I'm going to glue it on the gold section or the edge of the bottle cap. And it came out stunning. Let me know what you think. After I made it, I wish I had made 2, so I will probably be making a second one, or maybe a series of them, I'm not sure. I would love to create a mini walkway. Using this over-the-counter pill bottle, I'm going to remove the tag that came with it. However, the tag left behind some letterings. So I'm going to use a wipe with some Goo Off from Dollar Tree to remove the lettering. Once I removed that, I cleaned it very nicely to remove any oils from it. And then I gave it a nice coat of Mud Podge Multi. Once that dried, I gave it a coat with this chestnut color from Apple Barrel and one coat with brown oxide. Once it dried, I'm going to take one of these pipe cleaners and I'm going to use one pipe cleaner from this. I'm going to use this color. I got these from Dollar Tree. And I bent the pipe cleaner around that stem to reveal this pattern. Then I cut off a piece there, leaving a little area at the bottom. And then I did the same thing with the second piece. And I'm going to tie these two pieces together next to each other. And I'm going to be left with some excess at the top. I cut off the excess at the top. And then with the small piece that I cut off at the top, I'm going to add it to the middle of this wide piece that I created here. I trimmed off the excess over here as well and did this twice. And these are cute antlers. We are going to glue them to the top section of the pill bottle. If you're still with me this far into the video, I want to give you a warm thank you. Leave me an emoji so I know who you are. Alright, so now we're going to add some googly eyes to this. So I'm going to use the smallest size from this pack that I got from Dollar Tree. To help me maneuver, I'm going to just add them to some needle nose pliers. I'm going to add some hot glue to the other section and position the eyes on the front of the pill bottle. And I repeated the same process with the second eye. Then I added a red pom-pom at the bottom of the eyes. Even though it looked cute, I was not done yet. I needed to embellish this more, so I'm going to use these golden pieces from Dollar Tree and I'm going to cut off one strip and I'm going to add one to the top section of the bottle cap and one at the bottom of the pill bottle. If you have enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so YouTube notifies you each time I upload a new video. All these things are free and they mean the world to me. Thank you so much. Alright, that is it for this one. Look how cute this turned out. I love it. Let me know in the comments. How do you like it?
For this project, we'll be starting with one of these reed forms from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use my hot knife with the attachment that is like a knife. It has different attachments. If you're interested in getting one of these, I will link it in my description box below. But I just thought that this was the easiest way to cut this without breaking it as much or having it fall apart. Once I went around, as you see there, I just took my spatula and I just trimmed off the middle and then used my zip sander to sand the edges of this so it will be completely flat. I tested on my desk to see if it was okay. It was a little bit wobbly, so I'm removing some more of the bottom here to make sure that it's nice and steady and make sure that everything is nice and flat and even. Then I'm going to cover the entire piece with 2 coats of this mixture of Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint and baking soda. While that dry, I'm going to take this candle holder that I got from Dollar Tree, removing that tag, and I'm going to paint it with 2 coats of this Krylon spray paint. Then, once everything is dry, we are going to put this together. I'm going to place the reed form in the position as you see there. I'm pressing it onto the opening of the candle holder to create an indentation. Once I'm happy with the indentation, we're going to remove that and add some hot glue to the grooves that created. Here you can use a different kind of glue to make it more permanent, but for these purposes, this was quite enough and it held it pretty strongly. Then I took these votive candle holders that I created in a previous pill bottle video. I will post it in the description box. And I'm going to add these to the top sections of this right here. And I'm making sure here that everything is straight. I'm finding that it's a little bit lopsided. So I'm coming back in with my sanding block just to make it more even so that bottle candle holder or pill bottle cover really will be nicely flush and it will be pretty even so everything will look straight. Once I'm happy with them, I'm going to take some hot glue, add it to the bottom section of that piece, and then I blew it and let it cool a little bit so it will not burn the styrofoam that the reed form is made of. So here, this is why you'll see me wait a second before I position this on. I did not want this to make a hole onto my reed form. This is how it's looking so far. It's looking cute this way, but I wanted this whole piece to look like it was ironed. Ironed? It was made out of iron, I should say. Anyway, here I am taking some burnt amber from apple barrel and I'm going to paint the entire foam using it. And then I took it outside and just did a misting of the same spray paint that I used for the candle holders. And now we're going to add 2 candles to this, but I'm not done yet. We're going to use some of this boxwood draping greenery from Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut the stems at about 2-inch long because I do not want this to be too long that when I put it onto my foam, you will poke through it and have the wire peeking through the other side. So we need the wire to be short enough to just, get into the foam, but not protrude through. I think you know what I mean, right? Yeah. All right, let's move on. So I'm taking here a mixture of 3 different kinds of boxwood. This came from Dollar Tree, and they have like 3 different tones of the green. I have the very light, medium, and then pretty dark. So I'm going to try to add them on like one after the other, I should say. One dark, one light, one darker. Like I'm trying to mix it up a little bit there so it looks like beautiful foliage that just, growing in different shades depending on the sun or whatever. Anyway, let's get back to what we're talking about. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and add the greenery all up in the middle as you see there. If I see that wire is a little bit too long for this, I keep cutting as I go along to make sure that this is nice and straight. And as I'm putting them in, I am bending the wire exactly where the greenery starts, so that way the wire will go down and the greenery will drape, I should say, towards the front of this. And I repeated the same thing on the other side as well. All right, so in the first part, I used the lighter and the medium colored green boxwood. Here, I'm coming in with the darkest one. And I'm going to cut the stems the same way that I cut the previous ones. And I'm going to tuck them in around the perimeters of each side and some towards the middle. This greenery had a couple of pieces that had more than one piece hanging off at the same stem. So in that instance, I just separated them. And then I took a leftover piece of pick that I had in which I used all the flowers, and I'm cutting pieces off of that piece. And I'm using it to stick this other piece that have no stems onto them. And then I'm doing that until I have them all around, as you see there. Then I took this hanging greenery piece from Dollar Tree as well. This one, the hanging pieces did not have a wire. It was mostly plastic. So what I did is take a piece from a pick that I used before and bow holes where I want to position them. So I will take the wire piece that you see there to the right of me, and I will poke a hole onto the styrofoam. Here I'm trying, but it was just too flaccid. It wasn't working. So I'm going to take a piece and poke that hole exactly where I want it, and then thread that little limber piece of plastic into that hole. And I kept doing that until I added this greenery that had a little tint of yellow to it in between all of the other pieces of boxwood. I ended up using about half of this pick, but I added 2 pieces on each side of the greenery and then one in the middle to even it out. I wanted the specks of yellow to be seen throughout all of the boxwood. And I repeated the same thing with the other side. And then here I'm coming in with this yellow flowers that I got from Dollar Tree during the Easter time. And I'm going to cut them into individual pieces and add into the top section of this arrangement. I used a total of 2 of these picks, mixing them around the top, trying to make it even. And I'm making sure that you can see the flowers on both sides. You can see them at the top and you can see them in the bottom. Here, I'm just putting them in, bringing in those pops of yellow here and there. And there were 2 pieces that I had left over at the end. And those 2 pieces I'm going to drape down the front section around the boxwood right here on the other side. And that is it for this one. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about this one? For this project, we'll be using a wood round from Dollar Tree, this little house, a couple pill bottles, and that welcome sign from Dollar Tree as well. First, we are going to remove all the stickers from both of our pill bottles. I'm going to remove the caps because we will not be using them for this project. Then I'm going to take my wood round and remove that hanger from it. I'm going to make sure that I'm using the side that is the smoothest, and I'm going to use this gift bag that I got from Dollar Tree. I love the patterns, and I also love the colors and the fact they're bee themed. I removed the hanger from one of the sides, and I'm going to use the ridge on each side of the bag to cut off a section. I need a section that will cover the entire wood round. My friend, if you're enjoying this content so far, please go ahead and hit that like button. That truly helps my channel be pushed out to more people. And let me know in the comment section where you're watching from. I love to know how far my videos are reaching, and share it with someone who will enjoy it as much as you do, because sharing is caring and it helps my channel grow. Thank you so much. All right, once that I have the piece of bag cut, I am using just plain old school glue from Dollar Tree to attach this. If you don't have Mod Podge, that is quite all right to use this as well. So I'm adding enough so I have a good adhesion on throughout the entire wood round. And to spread this around, I'm using a paintbrush. And I'm making sure that that glue is in every inch of that wood round. Next, I'm making sure that that bag is covering the wood round in its entirety, and that I don't have the holes that are in the top onto the wood rounds. And then I'm using my X-Acto knife to cut off the sections around it. And I'm trying to be very careful because sometimes it's easy to cut this wood as well. So just make sure to keep your blade nice and straight and use the pointy part, and you will be fine, and you'll have a nice clean cut as long as your X-Acto knife is nicely sharp. Then I flip over my wood round to make sure that everything is nice and clean and that I have no bubbles. Then I take my weeder from Dollar Tree and I'm pressing down onto the section where the holes of this wood round is, so I'm able to add a hanger later on. And I'm pushing it from the outside in, so that way the paper will be into the hole. Next, I took this house from Dollar Tree and I'm going to stain it using some watered down Waverly Antique Wax. I'm just going to go ahead and spread it on most of the sections of this, but not including that front portion or the back of it. Then I took a piece of the same bag that I used previously, and I am taking here a section that will look cute on the front of my little house. So I'm making a square, or actually a rectangle, that is big enough to cover that. Next, I added some of my school glue to that unpainted surface. And as you see there, I had a lot come out. Another mishap. Anyway, so then after that, I'm spreading everything around using my paintbrush, making sure I'm not missing any spots. And then I lined up my paper, leaving that little scapuline exposed. And then I folded the bag over so I had indentations of where I needed to remove the remainder of the bag. And then using my small scissors from Dollar Tree, I am cutting off those sections. Some areas were not as clean, so I came in with my zip sander and I just sanded it down in a downward motion to go ahead and cut off that piece of paper, and then I'm able to tear it downward and I have a nice clean cut. Then I took some jute cord and I'm just burning off the fuzzies before I position it onto my house. Then I added a little bit of hot glue, added it to the back and put a small section of the jute cord there, and then wrapped it all the way around, making sure that it was in a nice straight line. and I wrapped it about 2 to 3 times around the house. On the third way around, I added a little bit of hot glue on that right-hand corner just to make sure that everything stayed in place, and then wrapped it all the way around to the back and glued the excess to the back of the house. And I thought this gave it a nice embellishment. But we are not done yet. We're going to come in and bring that wood round back in, and we are going to glue it to the bottom section of the wood round using a combination of the Tide Bond Quick and Thick and hot glue. The Tide Bond is so it will last permanently, and the hot glue is so we can work right now because you know I'm impatient. All right, once our house is nice and set, we are going to embellish this further. But now it's time for our pill bottles. First, I had coated them with some white paint and some baking soda, but I didn't like it. So I came back with plan B, and I'm going to wrap it in jute cord instead. I added a little bit of hot glue to the bottom of the pill bottle, and then I am starting to round or wind the jute cord all around itself, creating a spiral until I cover the entire bottom of the pill bottle. And once I cover that entire bottom, I'm just going to continue to wrap that jute cord all to the top of that pill bottle. Here at the top is when things get a little tricky. So I am adding hot glue in the inside of all of those grooves. And I'm doing this so I have that like a tapering effect onto the opening of the pill bottle. If I leave the grooves without doing this, my jute cord is going to sink into those holes, and then my bottle will have that shape, and that is not what I'm going for. So I added a hot glue and let it dry, and now I am continuing to wrap the jute cord all the way to the top until you can see no more of that pill bottle. I did not like that you can still see some of the white, so you will see me here add a little bit more hot glue like towards the inside just to finish up that little end there that you can still see some pill bottle. Just be very careful not to add too much hot glue, and then just position it very carefully, like gluing it onto the previous piece of jute cord, and just like do it on top of it, if that makes any sense, but in the inside, but on the side of the jute cord, I should say. Then I trimmed off the excess, added a little bit of hot glue to the inside of the pill bottle, and tucked in that little end. Now that it is completely covered, I'm going to bring my lighter, and you know already I don't like fuzzes, so I'm going to go ahead and take my lighter and burn off all of the fuzzies. Plus, I love that effect that it gives it. It makes it look worn and grungy. Then I took a small piece of jute cord. I'm adding a little bit of hot glue in the bottom here, and I am just adding the hot glue in a circle and positioning that jute cord on top of it until I complete a complete circle, if that makes any sense. Anyway, once I get to my end of my circle, I'm cutting off my excess jute cord and tacking down that little piece. Then I'm taking a little bit of my Folk Art Rich Black chalk paint and a small paintbrush, and I am painting the inside of that circle black, being very careful not to add it to the jute cord. Then I took some of these beads that I got from Amazon. I'm removing the paper from the back of it, and I am adding it in 2 sections of this. And if you have not figured it out yet, I am doing tiny little beehives. They're so cute. I made 2. This is what they look like once I added a flower. But this is just part of the project. We are going to incorporate them. But first, I'm going to create a hanger for my wood round. So I took about 20 beads, added them to a plastic bag. I added a scoop of my Waverly Antique Wax. I sprayed some water in there as well, and I slurred it around or smushed it around until all my beads were coated. And this is the easiest way to stain some beads, in my opinion. Once they dried, I just put them onto the same jute cord that this wood round came with and positioned it into my wood round. Now coming out little beehives, we are going to glue them to each side of this house. And to do that, I'm going to use some hot glue. Once they were both attached to each side of the house, I am going to take a small welcome sign from Dollar Tree, and we're going to glue it to the top section right here using a combination of the Tide Bond Quick and Thick and some hot glue. and I'm just going to place it on a slant. And this completes this project. Let me know in the comment section what do you think about this one.
Hello my friends, this is Loli. Today we are going to be making some Christmas decor using some pill bottles, some mop heads, and some toilet paper. Yes, toilet paper. Stay tuned for that one at the end of the video. So for this creation, I'm going to be using this pill bottle right here. The first thing that I did was just go ahead and take some of this goof off, and this is just to remove the residue of the label that was taken off of this. Then I took some of the Faux Rich Black and I just painted the bottom with it. For the cap, I'm going to use this leftover piece that I got from a winter hat that I got at my dollar store. Here I'm just burning off the fuzzes to avoid any fraying, and I'm just gluing down that felt piece that's in the inside so everything is one piece. Now I'm adding some hot glue to the outer edge of the cover of the pill bottle. And I'm going to go all the way around until it's completely covered. And then I trimmed off the excess. And boy, did I have excesses. So here I'm just doing the edges at the bottom to make sure that it's nice and flush, and I'm able to position it perfectly back onto the cap. And then here I'm just making sure that everything looks seamless, and now I'm cutting off the flap at the other side, and I am reinforcing here in the back by adding some hot glue, trying to keep it as seamless as possible so it looks like it was always meant to be this cute little hat. I gave it a final inspection and then trimmed off anywhere needed, and now we are going to be working on the bottom section. I'm taking pieces of this mop head that I got from Dollar Tree and just placing the pieces next to each other, trying to use the bottom of the pill bottle as the guide to the length. I just put one piece next to each other in rows and then went on top of it and added more until I was happy with the amount. And then here I'm just trimming off the edges. With these little fuzzies that I have left over from the cutting at the bottom, I am just gluing them together, trying to keep the hot glue at the center. I am creating a pom-pom for the top of my hat. So I just kept adding them over and over, cutting whenever was needed. And once I had a size that I was happy with, I'm just going to come in and trim it up and make sure that it's nice and round. And we are going to glue it to the top of the hat. Once I'm content with it, I'm just going to add some hot glue to one of the sections and press it down to the tip of my hat. Look how it's looking so far. Now it's time to add this little half bead right there to the center of the beard. Then I added this braid that came from the same hat that I cut this other piece from, and I'm adding it in the seam between the hat and covering a small section of the nose. And I'm going to make sure that my seams are in the back of my gnome. So I'm going to just use hot glue to bring it across the entire section there. And then I'm just going to cut off the excess. I want this to be pretty seamless, so I'm making sure to add a little bit of hot glue on the edge of the braid before I cut the piece off. So I just added some there, then I glued it down, then added a little bit more hot glue and glued that piece down. And it came out so nice, guys. Look at this. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this project, don't forget to like and subscribe. And share with your friends, because sharing is caring and it helps me grow. For this one, I'm going to use a pill bottle, of course. I'm going to be using one of these ping pong balls and a couple of these cardstock from Dollar Tree. They are glittered. First thing that I did, I glued that ball onto the top of my pill bottle. Then we're going to add some cardstock. But first, I needed to remove this piece of plastic that helps you open and unlock your pill bottle. I just cut it off using some snips. I just wanted that to be nice and smooth. I repositioned my cap, and now I'm going to glue the cardstock all around the pill bottle. I'm going to start in an angle right here, and I'm going to make sure that all the edges are nicely close to each other. So I'm going to be molding that cardstock downward to create this effect as you see right here that looks like a little tunic. Once I had it exactly where I wanted it, I'm going to just do a bead of hot glue all the way down the edge of the cardstock and glue it to the side. Then I'm going to trim this down so it will be the same height as the pill bottle. But it was hard to do this way, so I used my X-Acto knife to open up a little hole, and then I just bore my scissors through that hole and cut off the excess. And then I just trimmed the edges until everything was nicely leveled. And this is what we have so far. But I'm going to take now a strip of this gold cardstock that came from the same pack, and I just did like a 1/2 inch of a strip, and I started at the front, making sure that I have a little swag left over, and then I went all the way around and crisscrossed the last piece over the other one, creating an effect that looked like a little bow. If you enjoyed this video so far, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up, and while you're there, I hope you will subscribe. It is free and it means the world to me. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to take a piece of the same gold cardstock. I'm going to fold it in half and cut off the silhouette of 1/2 of a heart. Here I freehanded it, but you can always trace it as well. Then I'm cutting notches onto it. As you see right there, I'm just going in longer and shorter strokes, trying to do them in different heights and variation of how deep they are into this shape. And you might be able to tell by now I am creating an angel. So this is going to give that effect of the wings and the feathers at the end. And I just did that until I was almost all the way to the top of the heart. And once you open it up, look how cute that comes out. I'm going to just fold it the other way, add a bit of hot glue at the middle, and glue it in the back right at the middle of my angel. Then I'm going to take some of this gold wire that I got at Dollar Tree. I'm going to take a nice generous amount. I'm going to get double the amount that I'm going to need for this project because I want to fold it in half. And there, as you see, I'm just going to keep rolling it onto itself until it's completely braided into 2 pieces for 1 wire. I'm going to end up with a very tiny loop at the end of it, and that is perfect because I'm going to go ahead and form that halo circle and feed the other piece of wire through that to keep it in place, and then I'm going to fold it on the end to create the other piece that's going to go long ways to attach to the back of my angel. Once I was happy with the length, I'm just going to fold the edge of it a little bit just so I have some more surface area so I'm able to add hot glue and it will be better adhere to my angel. Once I had the girth that I needed, I'm going to add hot glue to that, and I'm going to position it in between the head and the wing. Once that was in place, I'm just going to add some more hot glue to that area to reinforce and make sure that it stays in place. Next, we are going to add some hair to the hair. So I'm going to use some of the mop head. I added a bit of hot glue on the top of the head, make sure that the mop head was nicely centered, and then added another one in the back. If you like, you can add a third one here to make the hair even fuller, but I was happy with just these 2 strands. And I'm going to just reinforce it by also gluing it at the sides as well to make sure the hair is not too big, and I want those wings to be nicely visible. And that is it for this one. You let me know what you think. All right, now it's toilet paper time. For this project, I'm going to be using a pill bottle. I'm going to use some of this cardboard that I got. I think it was something or the other that I got. Some clothing piece or something. And I saved the cardboard. So here I'm just creating, it's not a butt. Don't get excited. It is just, I'm trying to trace some feet onto here. Here I did it a little bit smaller than the bottom of my bottle. If you do this project, I will say make sure the feet are equal to the base of your bottles to make sure that everything is nicely symmetrical. So I cut that shape as you see there. Then I added some of my stick glue as you see there and added a piece of black felt to it. I made sure that it was nicely adhered. Then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim off all the edges. Then I'm going to create small little slats along all of the edges of the felt. Then I'm going to add some hot glue to the cardboard and bend my felt onto it to make sure that my felt molds exactly to the piece that I cut out. At the middle, it was a little bit challenging, so I used a small skewer to help me keep the shape of that little opening. And then I continued to go along all the sides until it was completely covered. I suggest that you use your finger protectors for this step because it's very easy to get burnt. Then I took another piece of felt and I'm going to put it on that side that I just glued down just to cover everything and make it nice and finished. Once it was nicely covered, I went over it and just with small scissors just trimmed off the excess felt, trying to keep it as close as possible to the ends. Now it's time for the pill bottle. I took my snips and I removed all of the edges from here, not just that opening and closing little mechanism, but the entire edges. I did it by snipping it using this tool and removing any stubborn pieces using my sand and emery board and also a box cutter. By the time I was done with the process, this is what it looked like. Next, I took a piece of felt and I'm going to measure exactly how much I'm going to need to cover this bottle with, and I just cut off that section. And then I glued it to the pill bottle, adding the glue very close to where the grooves of the thread, I guess, of the screw part of the cap was, because I do plan on putting that cap back on. And I'm just adding the hot glue to both the bottom edge and the top edge. I didn't want to have hot glue all along the middle. And once I got to the edge, I just added some to the middle there and trimmed off the excess. With the excess in the bottom, I'm just creating little slots as you see right there. Then I added hot glue to the entire bottom and bent those little petals down to have this nicely conform to the bottom. And using a nice amount of hot glue, I'm just going to glue it to that black piece that we created in the beginning. Then I reposition my cap and look how cute it's looking, but I'm not done, right? I'm going to take another piece of felt and I'm going to glue it to the edge of the cap as well, covering it up, leaving a little bit like a nail itty bitty amount a little bit further than the plastic of the cap, just so I'm able to hide something later on. Once I went all the way around, I'm going to just go ahead and trim off the excess in an angle. I'm going to do it like inward towards the top because I'm trying to create this to be a cute little hat, so that extra fabric will not be cute. So I need to make it thinner as it goes up. So here I'm just cutting as I go along and positioning some hot glue in place until I end up with this nicely arrow-shaped hat. Here I was thinking of using googly eyes, but it didn't work out. But now I'm going to come in with our toilet paper, people, okay? I'm going to go ahead and break it into tiny little pieces and put it in that container. I am adding some fine iridescent white glitter, and I'm adding some water, and I'm also going to add some school glue to this as well. We are going to create a magic paste. You wait for it, okay? We're going to just go ahead and mix it up really nicely and let it sit to the side while we prep our other pieces. If you see there, I have two pieces of felt. This square piece of felt, I'm going to just cut it like in a little U shape, like a V-U kind of shape on there. And once I get to that shape, I'm going to cut off the middle section of that shape. And to do that, just folded it in half and cut off the top section. And look how cute that's, okay? All right, so that's going to be a little beard. I'm going to give it away. Then I took that paste that I created and I'm going to completely cover both that V shape that I cut out and that strip as well. And I also took a bead, put it on a skewer and covered it with the same paste and let it dry. I let all these three pieces dry overnight once I had put the paste on them. Next day, it's time to glue this on. So I'm making sure that everything is fitting nicely. And now that we know, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue the beard right onto place. So here, if you notice, this piece has a little bit of felt at the top that does not have any of the white base on it. That's so I'm able to tuck it underneath of that little piece of felt that I left behind when I did the hat. So now you know why I did that. And that strip right there, that's going to be the frail or the fray, the trim of the Santa's hat. So I'm just going to glue it all the way around until I get to the other end and cut off the excess. Now it's time for the bead. I'm going to take it off the skewer, add a nice generous amount of hot glue in the inside of the little tip of the hat, and position that bead right onto it in the section where the hole was, so that way you won't be able to see the hole. And look how it's looking so far. Now, using this black focal paint and a skewer, I'm going to paint a couple ovals on here to give Santa little eyes. The beard was looking not as happy and white and snowy as I wanted, so I added it a little bit of this folk art linen white chalk paint from Rust-Oleum. I'm adding some of that glitter over the paint to just brighten this up a little bit. But don't you worry, this felt I know usually wants to attract everything to it, but the powder came right off. Now we're going to take this sun-kissed peach color from Apple Barrel and the back of a paintbrush, and I'm just painting on a little nose for our Santa. Then I'm taking this leftover piece of greenery that I have from a pick of Dollar Tree, and I'm just cutting a piece, and I'm going to hot glue it there at the corner of Santa's little hat. And I also added different color berries to accentuate his beautiful hat. And ended up adding another piece of pine as well and some more berries. Lastly, I took the back of a paintbrush and some linen white chalk paint and then did 2 dots on these eyes. And that is it for this one. Let me know what you think. My friend, as always, thank you so much for watching. Be blessed, be a blessing, and craft responsibly. And if you enjoyed today's content, here is some more videos you are sure to enjoy. Thank you again so much for watching. You're amazing. Bye.